Hi guys. Hi. First of all, thank you all so much for coming. This is the first series, and I think there's going to be 6 more hopefully this semester, so it's hopefully going to keep building. But thank you so much for being here. This is the first talks, part of a wider project called EmpowerHerVoice, which is an organisation that aims to facilitate empowerment of young women worldwide. I co-founded EmpowerHerVoice back in high school, and it's currently operating under 2 streams, which I'm going to quickly talk about. First off, we're working to create a platform for young women by inviting talented and passionate young women to give short talks, like all these lovely ladies here, and allowing them to express their interests and ideas and give them a platform. We record each event and we put them online so you guys can watch them afterwards as well. There are so many amazing, inspiring, wonderful girls here, and I just want to thank you all for being here. And if you would like to speak in the future, email me and let me know. Our second stream is that we're working on a wider basis to fund and establish centres across the world for girls from disadvantaged backgrounds to provide them with a space for self-growth. These centres act as refuge for gender-related violence, as well as providing an environment for self-empowerment and learning independent from their schools or family homes. Our first project of this kind is based in Karachi in Pakistan, and we are currently raising money to equip this centre with books, computers, tools for music, art, blah, 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 and a lot of scholarship schemes that are going through right now. It only costs, I think, around $200 to fund a girl entirely through this school, so if you'd be interested, go on our website and you can see the funding page. We're also selling t-shirts today, and all of those funds will go towards the Karachi project. So I'd just like to introduce the 3 speakers that we've got. There's 4 speakers this afternoon. So we've got Hannah, who's behind me, and she's going to be speaking on activism and empowerment in our radically changing environment. We've got Julia Wohl, who'll be coming later after class. She's going to be talking about rock climbing. It's quite classic Julia doing something like that. And it's entitled, What Have I Learned and Why Should We All Do It? Ines is going to be talking about sexual assault and what the crux of the issue really is. And then the lovely Maddie Thornton will be coming and talking about her work and her time with Wiser. So up first we've got the lovely Hannah.
Work by the end, so it's not even show until the end. So first I want to thank Phoebe for setting this all up. I know putting on any kind of event is really hard here, so big ups to you. And I guess I just want to talk about different forms of activism and how important it is given just our current global social political climate, and why it's really important that we focus on things like intersectionality and encouraging a more robust dialogue. So just to give you guys a little bit of background about my experience with activism, I have always been in a really weird position because I'm Ethiopian and from Ethiopia. And growing up, I always saw a lot of extreme levels of poverty, and a lot of girls like me who were from disadvantaged communities and literally could not afford to go to school and could not afford things like school supplies. But my parents were really educated, and so I had the opportunity to go to school. So in a lot of my peers were privileged, but I would walk outside and see people begging on the street, and that was really weird growing up, and I always felt this obligation or need to do something. So when I was younger, it materialized in the form of let me donate school supplies to students who don't have school supplies so that they can, have a better opportunity to go to school. And then when I was around 15, I started working with UNICEF that does a lot of really great work in Ethiopia on specifically girls' rights issues in high school. And so I would travel to far outside of my city to rural communities and rural villages and go and meet with young women my age and talk to them about issues that they were facing, which are radically different from the things that you're experiencing in high school here. So some of the really big issues in terms of women's rights in Ethiopia are things like FGM, which is female circumcision, girls not being able to go to school when they get their period because they don't have proper supplies, Child marriage is a huge issue, so girls entering into like arranged marriage contracts with men twice their age at around like 14 to 17. And so those were things that I was working on in advocacy for a really, really long time. And then when I was 16, I became a UNICEF ambassador. So I would go to these like conferences and things that the UN hosts, and there would be like a panel on girls' education, but the entire panel of government officials would be men. And that really confused me because I was like, how do you know anything about what a 14-year-old girl in the middle of nowhere in Ethiopia is experiencing or feeling? And how can you speak on that in a place where people are making policy decisions and that affects people's lives? So that inspired me to continue trying to find different outlets, like outside of policy and outside of just going to conferences and speaking to make a difference. So in my freshman year here, I worked with a company called Vice, you might have heard of it, and we produced a documentary, which I'm going to show you guys in a second, the trailer, not the actual documentary, on FGM. I will warn you, it's a bit of like sensitive content, but that was really powerful to me because I realized that the way to reach people who are so distant and so far removed from these issues that are really important to us, because as women we experience so much every day, but when you try and talk to someone about it, they might be like, I don't relate, or I don't know what you're talking about, is through art and through things like film and stories and like oral histories and things like that, to try and strike some kind of emotional value or emotional connection and help people understand that you shouldn't have rights because you're in college or because you're smart or you're educated or you're beautiful or whatever it is. Like, we deserve rights because we're human beings. And so I think that film is one really powerful medium to express that, and that's why I chose to do that project. And then the girls in that community that we visited to work on with this film, I then set up like a scholarship program so that they would be able to go to school and not have to worry about staying at home and working for the family in order to provide, or like worrying about have to enter into an arranged marriage so that they could pay for their family's bills or whatever it is that they need to pay for. And then two other things that I'll speak about briefly before I show you guys this trailer that definitely does a better job of articulating what I actually do, is that when I came to college, I noticed a different kind of disparity, and that was in the sense that like there was very few spaces in which I felt like my friends and I could share our experience and connect with one another. And so luckily, at the time that I was attending, some incredible women, some of who are here, Adea and Crystal, founded The Bridge, which is doing amazing work for Black and Latino women on campus. And so I got involved a lot more this year as like a web editor, and it's actually been really amazing to connect to people who share the same experiences as you and like have your own platform and have your own things. Like, that's so important. Like, it's just as important as having a diverse set of voices in a conversation like this. And I think that it's only going to obviously get better and like turn into a really powerful tool for young women of color on this campus. But it speaks to something greater, which is the issue that I see in this environment, is that when we see so many problematic and controversial things happening, we tend to fall into this trap of performance activism, which is like, I'm so mad at something that just happened politically that is like ridiculously unacceptable, and I agree with that. But I'm going to tweet about it, and like that's my job, and I've finished, and now I can go about like living my everyday life. but it's really important to like tie your sense of urgency and passion to something tangible, because it's not enough like to just be complacent and allow certain things to happen, because that's how we've gotten ourselves into certain messes today. So I think that like if there's anything that you take away from what I'm saying or what anyone says today, it's that like you don't have to solve any world problem, but to tie your passion and your urgency and your activism to some tangible action, so that we're actually making change and not just giving lip service. With that being said, I will show a very short, I promise, trailer.
As a youth ambassador to UNICEF Ethiopia, I have witnessed firsthand the injustices women and girls face in my country. So we're on our way into Afango, which is a small rural village outside of Samara in Ethiopia's Afar region, and still engaged in harmful traditional practices and have some of the highest rates of female genital mutilation in the country. 35% of the world's women have experienced physical or sexual violence, and over 125 million women have undergone female genital mutilation.
The community by itself has to stop it by knowing it's harmful. So we have to come out. Me and some women like me, we have to come in the front and tell them what the real pain is.
ሴቶች መገረዝ የለባቸው። በቃ ራሳቸውን ማወቅ አለባቸው። ራሳቸውን መሆን አለባቸው። መብታቸውንም የራሳቸው መብት መከበር አለበት፣ መጠበቅ አለበት።
FGM can range from cutting the clitoris to removing the labia and sewing the vagina. So what is at a loss for a young girl when she's circumcised?
Actually, she knows everything. She knows her life.
FGM can cause bleeding, loss of bladder control, birth complications, and even death. What happened to your baby? I'm so sorry that this has happened. I wish that wasn't a part of our culture.
If a culture or a tradition puts you in danger, why you accept it? I want to change the culture.
የኛ መጨረሻችን መሆን አለበት። ከኛ በታች ያሉ ህጻናቶች መገረዝ የለባቸውም። በቃ ሁሉም ነገር በእኛ ይልቅ
There has to be a revolution for women and girls.
Great, thanks guys. That'll be out in 2018.
Thank you, Hannah. That's just reminded me, I always used to like make Hannah have lunch with me like twice a week last year, because I would just endlessly be fascinated by everything she was doing, because she's an utter legend, and it's just incredible the work you do. So thank you so much for speaking, all the best. Next up we have Ines, Jordan-Zoob, who's going to be speaking on sexual violence and what the crux of the issue really is.
I kind of changed the topic a little bit. I'm still going to talk a little bit about sexual assault, because I think That's the work I'm involved in most that I can speak to. But I also want to talk about one of the worst things that I experienced in the work I do. I'm not going to go into details, but I just want to present you with a situation. Imagine you're in a big social group of around 50 or 60 people, and you're all pretty close with them, and you spend most of your free time with them. And you're all girls. You can try and imagine. One of the girls comes out and says that somebody who you guys interact with regularly, a guy, assaulted her at a party. This girl is someone who doesn't really show weakness normally. She's pretty strong, she's pretty confident. But you see that she's in a really bad way. I think everyone's first instinct is to believe her and to support her and offer any help that you can give to that person. And I think that's just like a general moral imperative that you should do that. And then imagine that some of the outside people in the social group you're in start questioning whether her story is true or not. And it gets back to the girl, and she starts hearing that the very people she's relying on through this experience don't believe her. And then it turns out that some of the people in her social circle are friends with the perpetrator. And they go up to the girl and they say, well, we're friends with the perpetrator. We don't believe you. You're lying. He would never do that. This story happens again and again and again. It's happened in 2 of the social groups I'm in. It's happened in all the social groups that I hear about. And it's not fair. It's not fair that we join groups that are meant to be elements of friendship where the support and the belief in woman from woman doesn't exist. And that's kind of what I want to talk about today, because there's a lot of myths about women not supporting women, but there are also some truths within a lot of the stories that we hear. So I'm just going to read 2 quotes that are very famous, but I think are important. So Madeleine Albright said, "There's a special place in hell for women who don't support women." And H.L. Mencken defined a misogynist as a man who hates women as much as women hate each other. So there's a lot of scholarly thought on why women don't support each other and whether they actually do. And in a lot of studies it's been found that when there's women in executive positions, there will be more women joining that company and moving into executive positions in the business world. When there's women in academic positions, that university will slide towards inclusivity. So when there are women in power, they do seek to help each other. And as Phoebe's work is doing, you can see there's plenty of women seeking to help women, but sometimes and somehow, despite all of those amazing efforts and despite these studies that purposely conclude that women supporting each other is really powerful, it doesn't happen. And there's a few reasons for that, and I want to talk them through for us especially, because I felt them here in Duke more than I felt them anywhere else. And one of those is that the way women succeed is by fitting into the environment. The environment is inherently male. We succeed by hiding the attributes of the gender that we're trying to defy. We try to fit in with the all-male group, and by that we're distancing ourselves from our gender. So you will see women in C-suite executive positions in the US not talking about women's issues because they want to be seen as one of the men, and that's the way they got to their success. And it's not for us to criticize their actions, it's not for us to criticize how they got there, but it is important to understand that when we're looking for women who are successful to help others who aren't, their success is often premeditated on the fact that they won't be helping other women, because that will take them away from the position of power, because men won't look at them the same way anymore. Men will look at them as emotional and bringing up issues that don't relate to actual business decisions we're making and stuff like that. So the idea that they're responding to sexism by distancing themselves from other women is really scary. It's scary that our success is kind of defined by how well we move away from the very things that define us and do affect us. And so gender solidarity is a term I don't know if you guys have heard of, but it's one that's really important. And it's something that I think about when I think that over 1/3 of American women voted for Trump. Whatever your political opinion, fine if you voted for him or not, but he's been accused of sexual assault by over 7 different people. Once again, the question of truth and belief in those accusations remains hazy, but the fact that there's so many women who heard the statements this man was making and was willing to support him is frightening. It's frightening that when you look at the statistics of ethnicity of women who are voting, over 56% of white women in the United States voted for Trump. Over 96% of African American women voted for Hillary Clinton. Over 68% of Latina women voted for Hillary Clinton. It's no longer a party issue. It's an issue about another group might understand what it's like to go through something terrible and be willing to help others who are also going through it too. So it's not just gender solidarity, it's solidarity in all forms. So this year, when we're dealing with all of this, and when we're dealing with what it means to be a woman in the US, there's many things to be hopeful for. The Women's March, Pantsuit Nation, there's all these great things. But at Duke, all I can urge us to do is to collaborate and share more, and to talk more about what it means to be a woman here. And it is not fun. It's not easy. I have so many times felt slighted in a classroom or in an academic environment because I'm not considered to be equal to the men who are very much dominant in the room. And what hurts me even more is not that, but it's that I don't have women by my side supporting me in those decisions. And unfortunately, it comes up a lot in social environments where we're very quick to criticize other women. And there is a myth that, and that is captured in that quote, that women hate each other. We don't. That is something that has been placed on us. It's a stereotype. It's an extension of this idea of the emotional, irrational woman who cannot help herself, can only think about herself and her appearance. But there are cases of women not helping each other, and I get that. I get that for us to succeed, we usually have to have an individual success strategy, and that often means, whether or not on purpose, putting away other women and putting away their stories. But we will not collectively move forward if we don't help each other. So one of the things that has benefited me the most is that I've experienced wonderful female mentorship at Duke. I've had people in my academic fields, in my social groups, professors reach out and help me. And I started doing that. So last year, I had 3 mentees that were whether related to programs I'm in or not. And this year I have the same thing. And I just hang out with them. I talk with them, I give them advice. We go out sometimes, we eat. But it's really, really nice. And I can see how much they appreciate it, but I know how much I appreciated it when I received it. And it's that idea of reciprocity. Like if someone had believed that girl when she told her story, I guarantee that that would be put forward, that more people would believe in each other, more women would believe in each other. So I think all I want to say is that I spend a lot of time at Duke evaluating where I stand as a woman and what I'm doing to help other women on campus of all race, ethnicity, skin color, faith, everything. And often it requires different things for different groups. But I really recommend the next time you hear a girl who you might not know upset about something, you think about what you might not understand about how they're upset. And I also recommend the next time you speak about any woman, whether it be saying that you don't like their top, which I see plenty of times, and you criticize their outfit, think constructively about what you're doing and how you're talking about women, because when men hear that, they assume that you're not biased because you're talking about the group that you're a part of. And they think that that's okay. So they hear the language disparaging women coming out of our mouths, and they roll with it. And the burden is not on women to empower all women, but we are part of it, and we are probably the easiest problem to fix because we all realize how much we want. Duke does a really great job of making it competitive to be a woman, to be the most pretty woman, to be the most successful woman. There's less spots available for most of the marketing jobs, like marketing from employers coming to Duke. They have a female program. There's less spots. We're inherently pit against each other to do better, and we're competing against each other, and that is the way the world works, and you can't escape it. That doesn't mean you can't support each other in the process. So I think this distancing that we see in trying to avoid the issue and trying to help our male friends more than our female friends is something that can't keep going on. So I'm thinking about how I can change the way I speak about women and the way I think about women, because sometimes things come into my head and I'm shocked that that's so instant for me to criticize what someone is wearing, or she's drunk, she must be skanky, she's looking like this, she must be that. If I'm doing it, God forbid what men are thinking. So that's all I wanted to say. I wanted to leave you with those thoughts and just urge you to be less competitive and more supportive with your fellow women.
Thank you so much. I always love listening to talk to Ines talk to me. I can listen to her for hours. Next up we've got Maddie Thornton. She's going to be talking about her incredible work she's done with WISE. She's led the group for a really long time on campus. And she's going to share some pictures and things that she's done. So thank you, Maddie.
I'm just going to get some photos up here for you. Okay, so hi everyone, I'm Maddie, and I'm a senior here at Duke. And I just want to take a quick poll of the room and see how many people have heard of the Wiser School for Girls. Wow, yay, everyone, pretty much. Okay, great. So I'll do a little bit of explaining about quickly what Wiser is and does, because I know so many of you are so well informed. And then give a few anecdotes and some of my stories from the summer at Mahuru Bay. So Wiser started as actually an intervention for HIV prevention and the lowering of HIV rates in Mahuru Bay, Kenya. And Dr. Cheryl Broverman is really like the leader of all of this and my hero and everything. Love you, Cheryl. This started as Mahuru Bay, Kenya is one of the most rural communities in the whole country, and it also has the highest HIV rate in the country. Almost a third of people in Mahuru Bay are infected with HIV. And Cheryl is a biology professor and very interested in HIV, so she actually was recruited to Mahuru Bay in order to come up with a solution to the high HIV rates in the community, and was really looking into, should they have condom distribution programs, those kinds of harm reduction programs that you hear often with HIV. And what she found from her research was that the number one reason why Mahuru Bay was struggling so much with HIV was because the women in the community were not empowered, and specifically were not able to go to school and stay in school. And these girls in Mahuru are the most incredible women that I've ever met in my entire life. I had a wonderful opportunity to meet them this summer. And these girls want to go to school more than anybody I've ever met. I mean, you come here in the United States and people are complaining to go to school. Girls I babysit are like, school is so horrible. These girls are doing everything they can in order to stay in school. And one of the things that girls in the community often were engaging in order to go to school was transactional sex in order to get money in their hand and pay their school fees, because primary and secondary education in Kenya is not free. So girls had to pay their school fees somehow, and engaging in transactional sex with fishermen was the quickest way to get cash in their hand and go to school. And unfortunately, because fishermen are traveling all around Lake Victoria, which is, Wiser is right on Lake Victoria, literally steps to Lake Victoria. These fishermen are away from their wives, away from their families, and engaging in transactional sex with anyone around the lake, which means that the girls were literally risking their lives and put at a very high risk of contracting HIV in order to go to school. All of that long-winded story to say that Wiser was started in order to allow these girls a safe place to go to school, to get their education, to learn and empower each other and other women in their community and the men in their community as well, to show that girls are worthy and girls are worthy of an education and worth more than what they were being viewed as just sex objects before Wiser invention. So this is the gate outside of the Wiser Girls School in Mahuru. This right here is a photo of the campus. It's so beautiful. I mean, this is a state-of-the-art school, one of the most, I think it's consistently ranked one of the best girls' school in Kenya, and it's in Mahuru Bay. Like, no one would ever have ever expected that the best school in Kenya would be in Mahuru Bay. I mean, if you told people that 20 years ago in Kenya, they would probably laugh in your face. And these girls are doing it. They're incredible. Cheryl has recruited the best teachers in Kenya to teach at the school. A lot of the staff are female teachers, which is really important for showing these girls what education can do and having strong female role models to look up to throughout their education. The principal of Wiser is Madam Dorcas, the most incredible female role model you can ever possibly imagine. And Wiser is just a really unique place. I've never seen anything like it, where all of the girls live on campus together, they learn together, and this is actually the first year that they accepted girls from outside of Mahuru Bay. So they have a class now the classes are about 60 girls each year because we received a grant to double in size, which is so incredible. And I think about 10 of the girls from this year's freshman class were from the Masai Mara, which is a different area of Kenya, and I think that's really been a great way to share cross-cultural experiences at Wiser and to have girls learn from girls from other parts of Kenya and share their cultures. And I mean, even those two places within Kenya are so different from each other. So giving those girls an opportunity to learn from each other and grow. These girls travel all around the country and even all across East Africa to different conferences to present. A couple of Wiser girls have come here to Duke to give a speech and to talk with groups just like this about what Wiser does and its mission, and they just truly are the most incredible girls I've ever met. And I think the most important thing I've learned from my work with Wiser and having the opportunity to go to Wiser is similar to what Hannah was talking about in her presentation, that education is a right as a human being, and that these girls are really doing such incredible things for their community and standing up and showing that with it, what they can accomplish with an education. And that I just think that it's something that I will never take for granted ever again, and I'm just really grateful for the opportunity to have learned from them. So this is also another picture of Wiser's campus. This is just right outside of the school. So you can see just how close we are to Lake Victoria, which is contributing to the HIV transmission. But they're doing some research now and going back retrospectively now and collecting data and seeing if the HIV rates in the community have been lowered since Wiser's inception about 8 or 9 years ago. And they haven't collected that data yet, but they have a very strong suspicion that the HIV rates in the community have been lowered significantly since Wiser's inception. And this is a community where no girl had ever gone to university. And since Wiser's first graduating class, this graduating class, every girl was accepted into university. And about 95% of them are attending university now in Kenya. So it's truly an incredible organization. This is a photo from one of probably my favorite opportunity that I had at Wiser this summer. This is a student at Wiser, Linza, who a group of the Form 3s, which is like junior year of high school, Wiser girls, created their own sexual and reproductive health curriculum that they went back to their primary schools, their middle schools that they had gone to before Wiser to teach sexual and reproductive health, in addition to the sex ed that is in the Kenyan curriculum, just much more comprehensive. And it was so incredible because they taught everything. So it's not, sex ed coming from your male middle school teacher that's taught from the Kenyan textbook. It's coming from these girls who are just a few years older than you, that you knew from your middle school. They respect them so much. The Wiser girls are like celebrities in Uhuru. And they were able to teach in English, switch to their tribal language, switch to Swahili, whatever they thought would be the most effective way to get their message across. And it was our Duke Engage group also taught sexual education in middle schools. These girls were probably 20 times more effective than our group. And so they've continued this program and are still teaching in schools. And so I just thought I'd share this photo because I think another important message from Wiser is giving girls an opportunity to empower others, which is what you talked about as well a lot. And I think that can be applicable anywhere. The girls having the chance to speak about something like sexual and reproductive health with other members of their community and be able to act as that leader in the community both empowers them and empowers the other members of the community. And I think that's something that Wiser really tries to do in all of their work. And it's one of my favorite aspects of the program. And this is the last photo, one of my favorite photos from Wiser's. This is a Wiser girl named Vivian, and I just love this photo because she's so happy and her big smile. And this is at her home in Uhuru. So just to give you an idea of what Mahuru kind of looks like, many different landscapes. And that's all I have to say, but if anyone has any questions about Weiser or would like to speak more, feel free to come and talk to me. And Claire also went to Weiser this summer too, so you can give a little wave. Thank you all.
Maddie, thank you so much. I'm going to go to every 8:30, but I have now. Okay, is Julia here? Hi, sweetness. Okay, Julia Wohl, thank you. She's going to be talking about rock climbing.
I'm actually changing the topic.
This is the third change, we know, we just go with it.
Hi, okay, I want to use a microphone.
Yeah.
So I was going to talk about rock climbing, but if anyone came because they're like a huge fanatic of rock climbing or like they hate the sport, the door is that way. I'm not So I wanted to share a story about this child I knew when I was a camp counselor. I went to this camp for my entire life, and it was like definitely the site of self-discovery and like being with people who are just as silly and strange as I am, and like and have contributed to like why I'm a weird person today. But it's because it's like this place where kids can like create a world that they want. It's like the site of the camp is this glorified park, and every group so first of all, the camp is divided into girls and boys until the age of 14, and then kids hang out in co-ed groups. But before that, it's very segmented. Like, we have this area where kids sit on these logs, and it's girls, boys, and they even sing songs that like pit boys and girls against each other, like who can yell louder, like you sing these little rhymes about it. But it's like really important to create this group identity, and I was a camper and then I was a counselor, so like I helped like create like legends and characters and stories that would like help make this world more real to the campers. But obviously like legends and stories that boys and girls want to hear definitely different. It ends up being that like all older boys are counselors for the boy groups and all older girls are counselors for the girl groups. But beyond, so I worked with like 6-year-olds mostly, and I also worked in after camp. So after camp was this time where like whoever couldn't get taken home by the buses or whose parents needed to pick them up later, they would just go to this one area, and it was boys and girls together. And there was this one child called Claire, not this Claire, different Claire, who, she has some exact same child. So this child called Claire I met through after camp, and so like when kids are really young, right, like 7 or 8, if everyone had like short hair, long hair, and like wore like t-shirts and shorts, like you just wouldn't be able to tell what gender they were, right, and it wouldn't really matter. But Claire was in a girls group, but Claire presented as a boy, as a little boy, and would wear like Batman shirts and baggy shorts and like black shoes, and had a Spider-Man backpack, and would read books that like you would traditionally associate with what a young boy would want to read. And I just knew that their name was Claire and like didn't know anything about them. But then we were all hanging out together, like me and some kids, ideal situation. And one of the kids, I was with Claire and another boy, and the boy turned to me and goes, "Is that," pointing to Claire, "is that a he or a she?" And Claire was right there and heard. And just like seeing their face, or Claire's face, crumple in like confusion, like not like knowing how to answer the question. I didn't know how to answer. I was like, well, let's leave that up to Claire to decide. You know, it's like it's kind of hard when like the kid is being put like being confronted with like not fitting in and being excluded. So anyways, I kind of observed Claire a little bit more from there on out, wondering like where Claire would play, and I noticed that if Claire wanted to play with boys, like boy games, young girls would like snicker and comment about it, and then if Claire wanted to play with the girls, I mean not always, but sometimes the girls would say like, no, that doesn't really make sense in their kid way. So Claire and I hung out a lot by ourselves, and we would make mud balls and we'd do fun kid things. And once we were just talking about like what superpowers we would want to have, and I said something boring like being invisible or learn to like know how to fly. And Claire kind of smiled at me and looked at me and was like, well, you know, I already have a superpower. I was like, what would you do? What is it? And Claire said, oh, I'm half boy, half girl. I was like, wow, that's so awesome. So we like kind of worked together to make it something that other kids would like appreciate and like want to learn more and like play with Claire. So like once Claire was on my back and we were running around being crazy, and a kid was like, "Whoa, Claire, how'd you get a counselor to do that?" Because like usually we're supposed to just like not favor kids and like be neutral. And Claire and I was like, "Well, you know, Claire has superpowers." And Claire and all the kids were like, "Well, what is?" Like tittering, like, "What is it? What is it?" So like that definitely caught their attention. But like even though like I mean I can't say for sure whether like Claire became totally accepted or like all the kids accepted her because I didn't live that experience. But it also was hard because there were some counselors that would definitely try to dictate what Claire could or could not do. So if Claire wanted to use the boys' bathroom, Claire was told, no, you need to use the girls' bathroom by other counselors. So Claire's parents were really supportive, and it may have been their idea to give the half boy, half girl thing, like it's your superpower, it's something to be proud of, it's something that is like your asset. But then like when Claire was confronted with people who didn't understand and wanted to categorize them, like they came across that barrier. And like for me who like went to this camp, like thrived being like an all-girls group and then being fine in a co-ed space and never questioning like how binary this was set up and like maybe for the betterment of the kids, but then also like where do you place someone who says they're half boy, half girl, like when it's already split. It was really interesting watching Claire like negotiate this difference. And sometimes Claire would complain about, I think they were placed in a girls group, wanted to be in a boys group. And it's just like, you know, you can, like as a kid, you don't understand those like social and political reasons that are told to us later, when like especially when you study things like that, and like you study historical discrimination and other reasons and stereotypes, and it makes sense like why that would be wrong to treat someone that way. But like all a kid knows is like, oh, that just feels bad when it happens to you. You know, you don't really know like why there are these larger reasons why people aren't accepting you. You just know that it feels shitty. So yeah, I guess like I learned way more from that kid than I could ever do anything for Claire. Like it was just, I don't know, like the simple lesson of like your difference is your asset, and you can like reform a story however you want to. Yeah, that's pretty much what I wanted to say. Claire didn't like return to camp the next summer. I don't know why, but yeah, so that was a cool experience.